Welcome back to Sydney Motorsport Park. It's time for some blue chip red line action right now. It's the 2021 New South Wales Production Sports Super GT 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro. We are talking some thoroughbred race machinery and some superstars of asphalt racing as well.
We've got guys like Luke Yulden here, David Wall as well, just to name a few. The great thing about it though, being under the stars, we're going to start in the daylight, finish under lights as well at Sydney Motorsport Park. And Chris Pither is here as well in a wild bit of machinery.
Yeah, excited to be here, driving the Mark II Mustang with Jeff Taunton. We're, yeah, it's a bit of a beast to be honest. I drove the original Mark I Focus back, I think it was a 2014 Bathurst 12-hour, and to have my first taste of the Mark II Mustang here has been awesome. It's a weapon of a car. This was actually brand new, this car, yesterday. First time it had the track, so we had a couple of little teething issues, but we got on top of them overnight, and today's the first day we got to have a bit of a dip, and happy.
My dad and I both done in some endurance racing and under lights, and we actually raced at this circuit a few years ago when the lights actually weren't put up and it was at night time, which is quite scary with just headlights on, but yeah, it's an amazing track and facility, and I think they've done a really good job with the lighting here as well. It's great to be back with some proper racing. Hopefully we get to keep doing it. We've got some spectators here, and yeah, it's just hopefully this is getting back to normal for all of us.
I'm really excited. So it's my first time at this track this weekend. So even running under lights, it's gonna add a new dynamic to it. So I'm really excited to see what the car feels like and the change in conditions as the race goes on, going from a cold afternoon to a cold night. So I'm really excited to feel that transition and see how the car handles. We're aiming to fight for some victories in the Mark I class and hopefully try and crack the top 10. That's the goal. Whether or not it happens or not doesn't really matter. I'm here racing with my dad, so that makes it even better. Just going to be enjoyable. But yeah, finish the race and just try and have a good weekend.
Some sweet looking race cars on the grid as they head up for their warm-up lap right now on a cracking day, which will turn into a cracking night. Brian van der Wacker. Qualifying was, well, not a surprise when you talk about the standard of driver who was able to pick up pole, but I think a lot of people thought that Barton Moore was going to be the man in that very sweet Audi, but it's good to see the name Yulden up there.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately for Barton Moore, just made a mistake, looped the car in the top 10 shootout session, and he will therefore start towards the back end of this top 10. Luke Yulden, though, a tremendous job in the end. A 1 minute 31.24 in the end. He was 1.8 seconds quicker than Chris Pither in position number 2. So this Mercedes-Benz AMG is hooked up to the track here at Sydney Motorsport Park and will start this 4-hour enduro from position number 1. Kylie King caught up with him a short time ago.
Luke Yulden, the pole sitter. What's it like to do that one lap dash in these cars?
It's awesome. So coming from an endurance background in V8 supercars, a co-driver never gets to do that. So to actually have a chance is awesome. I've done it at Bathurst in a 12-hour, but I tell you what, really tricky conditions because these cars don't run tyre warmers like we normally would. So to try and get it done on lap 1 is very, very tricky. So we're about a second and a half slower than in quali. But I'm just glad I kept it on the black stuff.
That's cool too. I didn't realise that you just basically go out there and have at it. There's no way of warming up. You just get after it on those fresh tyres. We are going to see some tremendous race cars out here, and some of the colour schemes, can I just say, that's like Eddie Van Halen's guitar. That thing is wild, the Lambo.
The Wall Racing Machine, Adrian Dietz and David Wall, they'll start this one from position number 5. So Vince Moretti and Luke Yulden will start this race from position number 1. Moretti will take control of the car in the opening portion of this race as well, because of course there's 2 drivers, some of them electing to run 3 drivers as well. We'll talk you through that. Plenty to play out in this 4-hour race with strategy as well.
So it's going to be a rolling start here. And we go on board with the Taunton-Pither combination. Did you see that look of excitement on Chris Pither's face after he drove that magnificent Mark II before? And we're underway here. Highlights of a 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro. And straight away, it is the Mark II out to the lead. Taunton and Pither. And firing up the inside is the Audi.
They have to be careful, aren't they, on this opening lap, because that's the thing about an enduro race. It's 4 hours long. You don't need to be rubbing panels on the opening lap, and they were very clean and consistent through the opening few turns there as well. Nice start as well from the Stupas entry, the 23 car. We'll share that with Yasser Shahin throughout the course of this 4 hours. They've made up some spots in the opening portion of this race as well with the KFC-sponsored Audi. And already unfortunately, just dropping back through the field in the opening stages of this race as we watch through the back end of this top 10 and some of this beautiful machinery here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Millions of dollars worth of race equipment on the track on a beautiful day for racing. Doesn't that Mark II just look magnificent? I got to say it, the car in second. Shut up and take my money. That thing there, the Lambo, that colour scheme is just wild.
It's fantastic, isn't it? And of course, got some great drivers behind it as well with Dietz and David Wall. We know his experience in Australian motorsport. Great to have him here as part of the opening round of the AMRS series. And we're having a look now at your pole sitter. Luke Youlden drove the pole. Already taking control in the first period of this race. So let's try and unbreak some of this strategy game for you. So what these cars have to do over the course of the 4 hours is 3 compulsory pit stops. In that compulsory pit stop, it must be 5 minutes in length. So quite a long period of time you're going to spend in the actual pit bay. So driving time is also going to be critical in this race because the maximum time that one driver can do in the car at one time is going to be 65 minutes. The maximum time a driver can do over the course, and we've got a bit of a change for the lead here almost at the moment as well. Stupa's working on the back here of the Mark Cars Australia entry. The overall time that one driver can do throughout the whole race is 2 hours and 24 minutes, which equates to 60% of the race. So there's not much of a window or a margin for error for these drivers to get that driving time wrong.
And it's not easy for us either to spot whom is in which car at what time with this co-driver situation. There's no green light per se that we're used to seeing in, say, the Bathurst event, where you're able to immediately spot who is driving which car. Just saw nearly a change for the lead very early when this Mark II ran just a smidge wide down into turn number 2. Nice little battle looming as well for third. Nice job by Youlden, who has enormous experience in enduro racing in many different forms. Put the thing up onto pole, which was a great result. Let's look at replay of your start. Very clean, which is what you want. Sound is just fantastic.
It's great, isn't it? So we ride on board here with Marudi into turn number 2 here in this Mercedes AMG GT3. Look at Stupas, fires down the inside there at turn number 2 on this opening lap. And it's always good just to leave the door open. The Padiachi machine as well, the Porsche, one of the cars from the GWR stable. Of course, Garth Warden Racing.
That was close too. Just look at how close that move up the inside by Marudi was. Pulled it off beautifully and has immediately put the pressure on your race leader. Back on board with Padiachi, the RentCorp Hyundai forklifts entry. Hard under brakes into turn 2 just here, which opens out of that right-hander. You got to really keep the momentum up out of here. Slow in, fast out. Nice little challenge up the inside. Is there trouble for the 33 car here?
Just looking after the car in the early portion of this race, making sure that they can get to that first pit stop in the race and work their way obviously towards the end. And what you've got to try and figure out as well is that really if you've got a 65-minute driving time for these cars, it sort of actually breaks the race up quite nicely theoretically. So what the teams will do is they'll probably pit on the 1 hour mark. That's your first compulsory pit stop. The second hour and then the third hour, put the final driver in the car and away you go to the finish. What will dictate a lot of that though is safety cars. If we get safety cars in this race, that will change it all up. It's good to have, of course, Garth Warden Racing, as I mentioned a moment ago, 2 cars from the GWR stable. You've got the Padiachis and also Michael Sheargold and Garth Warden. They're making their way up through the field quite early in this race as well.
The Ruse Systems Australia Gardner entry, you just saw it then, the 707. Oh, it's easy when you got that much horsepower to get a bit complacent, get on it too early, and there is the challenge for the lead. So the KFC car, I like it like that. Straight through into the race leader, and that's a nice pass.
Yes, the Stupas there down the inside around the back of Corporate Hill takes over the race lead now as well. We've got the lights on these cars. They'll come into full effect a little bit later on when this race goes from twilight into dark. Back on board with Marudi here as well, giving up another spot. That's the Moore entry, Barton Moore in the 99 car going down the inside there as well, the right-hander.
And we expect that from Barton. Very talented racer. Cut his teeth in Formula 3 racing many moons ago, but Barton has always been a class act in anything he's turned his hand to. You're watching highlights of a 4-hour enduro here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Man, that shot just does things to me.
Two Lamborghini Hurricanes going at it down there at the second turn. Throw into the mix as well. An Audi R8, and you've got some serious machinery there at the moment as they work their way through turn number 3. Good to have the iMac Lamborghini back in the fold as well, of course, for Andrew McPherson and Ben Porter. Have done some great stuff overseas recently as well, and good to have them here as part of the opening round of the AMRS series at Sydney Motorsport Park, presented to us by Magnolia Capital.
David Wall, Adrian Dietz, your co-driver out there at the moment. In these early stages of such a long endurance race, what are the drivers thinking? What's the mindset when you're out there at the moment?
Look, as you touched on there, it's a 4-hour race, so our mindset is just to keep building some laps up. We're 17 minutes or something in, or 20 minutes into a very long race, so for Adrian it's just about building momentum and hopefully staying out of trouble and getting some laps under our belt.
Yeah, because you allowed him to qualify, start the race and do all those things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Adrian's car and he's doing a very good job, and he knows the car better than anyone as well. Like, this is my first event in this car, so it was great to see him qualify. It was great to make him do the top 10 and see him jump up a few spots here, and we started 5th. So far it's pretty good. We're running 7th and stay out of trouble and see what the race brings.
Oh, we got a spinner
look
here.
out!
I think that's one of the Garth Walden racing machines. The Padiachi entry has spun there on the exit of the hairpin. They come back onto the track. Not quite quick though, I guess you would say. So on board here with the Padiachis, and car down the inside there probably just lights it up. That's exactly what happens. Doesn't even turn the wheel. He knows he's going around. Don't want to burn the tyres either.
Just trying to get on the pedal a little extra hard to try and keep that Lambo. Or maybe he got hypnotised.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm struggling with it myself.
You're not wrong. So here's the sheer gold entry that I was talking about a moment ago with Garth Walden also in that Porsche. They've made a great start in this race as well, getting around the Mark Cars Australia entry. So they're charging towards the front here. A really nice start, and by all accounts, they've sort of found a bit of pace now in this car compared to what they've had over the early point of the weekend. But I'd tell you what, it's a perfect way for them to start this race. Look at this traffic. We're going to have to talk about that a fair bit in this race. Being an endurance event, being cars in different classes, you have to contend with traffic. So far, by all accounts, the drivers are saying that with the cars out on the track, all the drivers have been pretty patient and very much observant as to where cars are around particular points of the racetrack.
Well, Chris, does it get any easier being out of the car watching your teammate out there?
No, it doesn't, to be honest. It's, I get used to this being in the Supercar Endurance Racing Series as well. But, Jeff, he's doing a good job. He hasn't been in the car for about eight months. He's been out of the seat for a long time because of the challenges we all faced last year. So, combined with that, yesterday we had a little mechanical gremlin we had to get on top of. So he's had limited laps, and he's been thrown in the deep end, up the pointy end to start the race, out of second. And he's probably just finding his rhythm now, and I think looks like his times are steadily dropping. So as the tyres come up, he'll get more confident, and that's one of the great things about the Mark car. It's such a driver-friendly car for anyone like Jeff Gentleman driver, jumps in and can get to the limit in a fast car really quickly. So he's doing a great job.
Well, that's what makes it interesting, isn't it? When you've got cars at different speed and different performance properties, or just watching them pass up the inside again. So that Porsche under a lot of pressure now, and the Mark II all over the back. A little bit of a wriggle coming out of that right-hander. Fourth gear, quite get to fifth. Battles everywhere here for this 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro.
There's Garth Walden in that Porsche as well that started the car, so he's making his way up through the field early here. They have struggled though with tyre wear, so watch for that in that Porsche. See how it goes towards the back end of the stint. Meridian trying to make up some spots once again after falling back early in this Mercedes, but that's the thing about a 4-hour Enduro. You can make it up. Bit of a moment here for Walden. Locks up off the edge of the racetrack. Just as we said, they've made up some spots, and we mentioned about tyre wear on this car getting towards the end of this opening stint. Maybe that tyre wear now is starting to really, really hurt them.
This is a replay from Meridi's point of view, and Garth has a lot of experience too, so that That tells me that either even the best of them make a mistake like that, or he really is battling some tyre wear. Certainly locked it up getting in. He had a mirror full of the Mark II in behind him, and he just fires off and lost a stack of ground just then.
Here's Marudi as well, looking towards the inside. The Mark Cars Australia entry leaves the door open. Marudi will get the job done there and slot himself up yet another spot. So starting to make up from that slow start as we're back on board with the Padiachi machine here. How's the sun? That's going to be something we'll have to pay close attention to as well, because being a race that transitions from the afternoon into the night, the sun in the western sky is something they'll have to contend with.
Back on board with the 82 car. Oh, nice big switchback. Not sure if it will stick, however. There is a whole lot going on early in this race. Don't the Audis look magnificent? A pair of them going after it side by side through that right-hander.
How's the sounds as well? You can pick them. That's the great thing about GT racing. You can pick the different sounds. You know you're on board with a Porsche though, with that distinctive note. Stupas here as well, trying to work his way through some of the back markers at the moment. Of course, your race leader in the early portion of this 4-hour enduro, flashing the lights as well to try and get some of the slower cars out the way, letting them know that he's coming through, and he's the man on a mission at the moment.
That's the Zingerberger effect of it right then. Just add a little bit of the flash in the back and certainly let them know this has been a very strong start for this team. It's a 4-hour enduro, so pit stops. Now, we talked about them, or we didn't get to talk about them before. It's a 5-minute window.
5 minutes, so they must sit now in the bay for 5 minutes. They'll put the hood up here at the moment. This is the Padiachi machine we're on board with at the moment, so maybe this is an unscheduled pit stop. They're going to do a driver change as well. They're just in the underbody of that car, changing tyres as well. The other interesting thing about this format for this weekend is the refueling. So they're not using the dry brake refueling system that we sometimes see. They're actually using just a standard old, nozzle, the fuel hose, I should say. They simply wind the handle to pump the fuel. So it's more of a not so much safer, but it's just an easier way to go racing, less cost effective as well. And with a dry brake refueling system, sometimes things can go wrong.
Now, we're of course showing you highlights of these pit stops, so that was a far more urgent look at a reasonably relaxed window. 5 minutes, you can achieve a whole lot of things in 5 minutes at a pit stop, so just gives you a chance to refresh and regroup.
These drivers all trying to find out when they can come into the pits, because the interesting thing is we're about the hour mark. So these drivers are getting to about lap 36, 37, extending their window, so getting to that 65 maximum driving time at any one point in this race, and then of course making a change, a driver change. So what theoretically the driving time is stopping people from doing is by doing double stints in this race.
Underdog racing. I do love that. Look out! Very quickly, the 77 forum entry just loops it in that left-hander.
Here we go, so Stupas in at the moment. They'll do a driver change here as well. They'll hand over the car. And completing this one as well. So at the moment, we're on lap 37. Yasser Shahin will step aboard this car and will take it through for the next hour of this race. So pitting on lap 37, your race leader's now in.
Haven't the Shahin family invested enormously in the sport of motor racing in this country? The Bend Motorsport Park is one of the absolute blue chip events. Here's a look back at the 77 car. Now I'm going to try Tesorero, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, and Papa Demetrio, that team. I'm really sorry if I've messed that up.
Matt, how would you describe that first stint?
Yeah, listen, it was good. I was very unhappy with the car yesterday, so for today we made some changes overnight, and it's back to where you can drive it, and it was actually really quite nicely in the window. So I sort of thought, you know what, the tyres had to do 2 hours. It's a bloody long time on one of those for those cars. So the Audi uses front tyres. My old Audi used to use the rear tyres. The new one used the front tyres. So you can go in harder in the front, but you'll destroy the tyre. So I sort of set a target. I was being told by the team, yeah, you got 6 seconds, you got 9 seconds, you got 14 seconds, you got 20 seconds. And I just thought, he just said, take it a bit easier. So we just buttoned off a bit. All I am now is I want to go and have to sit down. I want to actually put some deep heat on my back, and that's it. So it was good. That was good.
I just can't stop thinking about Eddie Van Halen's guitar as that
right.
Lambo. I'm sure that's not the point, but it looks mint. Now in comes the Walden Sheargold 45 car, the Porsche. It's a little busy inside the pits right now.
It is at the moment, so the Wall Dietz entry. Dietz started the car, pitting now on lap 37, handing it over as well. David Wall there on screen.
I was going to say, that is absolutely David Wall. His dad, too, I remember greatly, his dad did an amazing job for motor racing back in the day. Had that very cool Corvette that he used to race, and I'm sure that Des is as missed today as he ever was. A wonderful racing family, the Walls, and always good to see David still out there wheeling it.
So Luke Yordan about to step in this car. Marudi is going to jump out, just trying to get the harness undone there as well, unplugging the drinks cord too and the radio. And that's the other thing, with these longer pit stops, it gives these drivers time to do their pit stops and their compulsory pit stops and the driver change done safely, because sometimes there can be some finger trouble, and when the car goes back out on the racetrack, you know sometimes that things can go wrong.
Got time to take your time. The Mark Cars entry. Yordan's going to step the intensity up, and having said that, Marudi's done a fantastic job, so no flies on him at all, but certainly you'd have to think the man had set pole. Luke Yordan is going to be quite the explosive situation in this race. Oh, Pagliacci had to pull up because the KFC car looped it. Fresh tyres?
Yep, fresh tyres, cold mind as well sometimes. So this is on board from Pagliacci's view here, down into turn number 2. So they've just done the driver change, of course, and as you mentioned, Wade, cold tyres. Around she goes. Oh, tell you what, the Pagliacci's did a nice job there of getting through that.
That's a KFC drive-through right there for the Hyundai Forklifts entry. Wasn't expecting that, you have to say. It's going to change things up just a little in our 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro. The wave out. This is Pither. I'm just looking at the helmet already, that Mark Cars entry. We'll take a break. Come back very soon to Sydney Motorsport Park. Listen to that sound. Welcome back to Sydney Motorsport Park. It's round 1 of the Australian Motor Racing Series, and this is the blue chip red line event of it all. The 2021 New South Wales Production Sports Super GT 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro. We were just riding on board just then with the Wilson Nader Sewell BP Horsley Park BMW as it ranges up behind the Sheargold Walden Porsche. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're making some big progress.
It's been a good race so far, plenty going on in this 4 hours you would come to expect. Luke Yordan now behind the wheel of the 33 AMG Mercedes, doing a nice job at the moment as well. Back on board with Pagliacci's too, plenty going on in the steering wheel there, having to work that race car in the early stages.
Busy behind the wheel. It's been a pretty intense 4-hour enduro, got to be said. Everybody working through their respective changes in their pit stops, that 5-minute window that everybody has. You can just see how bright that sunshine is coming in. Lamborghini v Audi, and the Lambo beautifully around the outside.
Yeah, nice change there. Now the complete running order as it stands though. Oh, look at this little pass down the inside there of Shaheen getting underneath some of the lap traffic. So the order as it stands, Shaheen leading the race, taking over control from Matt Stupas. He's currently leading this race at the moment from this car, Luke Yordan, in position number 2. So plenty going on, and that's actually a change now for that second spot. Barton Moore entry going back now to 3rd.
Yeah, the Kelly Barton Moore combination, the industry racing number 99. Here's the replay copybook. Not his first rodeo, Luke Yordan. Super smooth in the Mercedes. Wheels it in. Man, that thing must be fun to drive. Remember when that particular car came onto the Australian motor racing scene and everyone just dropped their jaws. Pither and Taunton, you can see Chris Pither, the expat Kiwi, started off his career in Australia in V8 Utes. Of course, doing a very nice job in the Coca-Cola supercar side of things, but you just saw the look of excitement in his face at the start of our coverage when he got to drive the Mark II. We check out Shaheen now in the KFC number 23, or the Shaheen car, I should say.
It was a great opening stint, wasn't it, for Matt Stupas? But as we mentioned, Shaheen taking control now. Plenty of experience in this car as well, taking it towards the front of this race. Back on board here with this Mark Cars Australia entry. Looks towards the inside here and gets the job done. So moving up yet another spot and making the most of it as well. Here is Luke Yilden again. He's trying to charge down your race leader as well. Down the inside of the Padiachi Garth Morton Racing Porsche as well.
It's interesting to note too, when we saw that pit stop before, Brian, that Chris Pether wasn't getting out of the car, and we don't have to do driver changes in that car. So we actually stayed in during that pit stop. Just watching the Lamborghini working its way out of that left-hander. These guys have been super consistent so far. That is the 6th entry of Dietz and Wall, the Huracan. And it's been a pretty solid job, man. If I had a lap for $1 for every lap that David Wall had done around this joint, we'd all be able to go and spend an overseas holiday. Up the inside on the 20 car is the iMac Lamborghini through turn 2.
So just going back, we mentioned that pit stop a moment ago for the Taunton Pither entry. I think that was a bit of an unscheduled pit stop because the time they didn't actually spend 5 minutes in the lane, and they only did near enough to 10 odd laps in that stint, which is nowhere near long enough. So I think that was a little unscheduled pit stop, possibly something wrong with the machine. They're back out there though now.
Here's the Gillison Hargraves entry, the local search direct wave entry. That's the body language I'm just checking on there at the moment as the Barton Moore 99 rolls back out.
So second round of pit stops here at the moment. We're about on the half race distance mark, around about lap 75 at the moment. So these drivers and teams all working towards the number, pitting as we mentioned on that hour mark, trying to split this race up evenly. And now it's going to be very important because now they're going to have to work their way towards the end.
Barton, what's the verdict on the stint after that last one?
Oh, to be honest, we're a bit disappointed. We deliberately double stinted the tyres, and as soon as I went out I was really struggling for grip and we just lost a lot of pace. So while we were aiming for me to do a longer stint, we had to come in early than we wanted. We still keep in the window we need to be, but we're struggling for pace a bit then, which really surprised us. Normally the Audi's really strong, but we might have just taken a bit too much out of the tyres in the first stint, and then we really suffered then.
Endurance racing, anything can happen, huh?
Oh yeah, it's not bad, don't get me wrong, and it's turning out to be a really great battle, and unbelievably, touch wood, no safety cars so far, and you're right, this is really turning out to be a tough endurance race.
And I guess the best part about it, with there's different manufacturers involved, different strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, absolutely, you see it out there with the cars, and even they ebb and flow as the tyre life goes off and the fuel load changes. It's lots of variety.
So Barton Moore there just stepping out of the race car, handing it back over now to Kelly. So we're right on board here at the moment with the Mark Cars Australia entry, looking down the inside here at turn number 1. Can't quite get that spot there either.
I was just about to say that looked a little too easy, but then all of a sudden the KFC Audi was back in there to make sure it wasn't that easy. So Barton Moore saying they actually came in earlier than they had planned, and Chris Pither coming in now too. So it'll be interesting to see if we can find out what the go is with his earlier pit stop.
It was unscheduled, so Pither now coming back into the lane here as well. This is now their scheduled 5-minute pit stop, so Pither will jump out of the car, hand it back over here as well. So we work towards that 2-hour mark. So Dietz now in the car as well for this number 6 Wall Racing machine. There's David Wall on screen. He's handing it back over. It's been a nice run for them so far. So let's try and find out and break down what's actually happened there for Chris Pither with that unscheduled pit stop earlier.
Chris, anytime you get out of a race car and you're grinning from ear to ear, you know something's going right.
Yeah, that was exciting actually. Like I mentioned earlier on, we didn't get many laps on Friday. First time driving the car, brand new car this weekend. And doing a stint like that in the race, I finally got to sort of just chip away gradually and learn the car. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had some good pace there. Still not quite as quick as a couple of the GT3 cars at the pointy end, but we're getting there. We've got different strengths and weaknesses to them, so it's quite interesting. The lap time's quite similar, but definitely can't carry the speed through turn 1 that they can. They have more downforce than us. But then we're quite strong in the low speed. So it's a bit of give and take. Unfortunately, I had a good crack at passing Yasser in the KFC Audi, but I couldn't get by, and unfortunately we got stop go time penalty there for a little bit of fuel spilt during that stop. So we're not in the best position, but we've got a fast car, and we're moving forward and having a whole lot of fun.
So Pithard just jumped out of the car there, answers our questions as to why he came in a moment ago as well with that stop-go penalty. So Luke Youlden out of the car, Vince Moridi back in it now as well.
Mate, you good? You good? Drinks in? Have a drink?
Bit of discussion going on there as
It's
well.
always nice when someone cares if you've had a drink, isn't it?
You're not wrong. So Youlden's just stepped out of the car.
Interesting too with Pither's comments too about, you know, where the strengths and weaknesses are of that car compared to some of the other GT3 cars. Luke Youlden, however, is a solid prospect in any environment. Right now, let's find out how the day's been tracking for him so far.
Well, Luke, consistently in that top three, I guess, for the entire race. Your stint made up a little bit of ground there.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a margin to make up. We actually double stinted those tyres, so those tyres are the ones at the start of the race, which I tell you, around this place, it's a nightmare. So I'm looking forward. I've got some green tyres to go on next, so I can't wait to get back in.
Yes, and that's when it will be twilight racing at its best.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Actually, I've done some track days here under lights, and it's just like driving in the day, almost. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
And the endurance race, it's how would you describe having to pace yourselves in a race like this?
Yeah, it's not so much probably pacing the driver, it's pacing for the tyre deck. This place is just the worst track in the country for tyre deck, so just trying to manage that is the hardest thing. I mean, these car's got a lot of power, a lot of downforce, and you really lean on the tyre, and when you start to lose it, you just got to try and peg it back and maintain consistent times, and I think we managed to do it. It's hard work out there, trust me. I don't think the steering is ever straight. So it's Tokyo drift around the whole place for 40 laps.
Just listen to that sound. You can see conditions. We've got into the twilight section of this 4-hour enduro. Gorgeous looking sky and some mint looking race cars underneath. And this is really the last few laps, the last hour in particular, has changed the shape of this race considerably. I love the excitement in Luke Youlden's face after all these years. I can't wait to get out on green tyres.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we've just passed the halfway mark, getting ourselves closer to that final round of pit stops as well. And that's going to be the fascinating point in this race with Adrian Dietz now back behind the wheel. And of course the Mark Cars Australia bringing a great contingency to this opening round of the AMRS Series.
Magnolia Capital bringing us the first round. Well, 3 wide, thank you very much. And nice work just to get away on that right-hand side to allow those true safe passage. The lights here are fantastic at Sydney Motorsport Park, but these cars already, I love the unique style of headlights. It's almost like a bit of bling that you can bring to the deal as well. Side by side, Audi versus Mark, and the Audi pulls through very nicely.
Yep, good job there, moving up through the field and trying to make amends of what's going to be a difficult race to get right. Of course, the Zalua Perez entry there, the number 63 car, as we have a look at the iMac Lamborghini of the McPherson Porter machine. Back into turn number 2 here as well. As I mentioned, they have done some great racing as of late. Competed overseas just recently as well, a few years ago.
Uh-oh, trouble here.
Oh, no.
The 77 entry had a spin earlier on, and things are not any better for Tesorio. I hope I've said that correctly. And Papa Dimitrio. And the 77 Audi just backing up to get out of the racing line. Rejoining the circuit now. So hopefully that was just a bit of a moment and everything's okay. Coming out of turn 2 by the look of it.
Just finishing my point of McPherson Porter entry. So the 2019 GT World Challenge Asia AM Class Champions. So some great stuff they've done there recently as well. Before the worldwide pandemic put a stop to a lot of overseas racing. Oh, moment there, and that's the Padiachi machine that we're on board with. The Porsche has made contact with one of the Mark Cars Australia.
Oh, no!
Oh, that's caught at a very awkward point of the racetrack. Now, we're approaching about 70 minutes to go in this race. If that car doesn't get going, strategy's going to get thrown out the window with this particular safety car. So this is fascinating. Remember the number I gave you at the start of the race. 65 minutes is the most that any one driver can do in the car in this race. We've got about 70 minutes to go. What do you do now with your driver in the car?
I got to say, like the great Mick Malloy, I put it to you, Brian. What are the chances that that will happen in an event like that?
Yeah. Exactly. The one safety car that we've had in this race, and it could not have come at a more awkward time in this 4-hour enduro. We're riding on board here. The Porsche. Locks up at the last minute and tags the left rear quarter panel of that Mark Carr's entry. And there it is. It's like it's beached on top or caught there on something and can't actually get the traction back onto the racetrack. This is why I cannot stress to you how critical this is now in terms of strategy, because it's such a headache now for these teams to know what to do when you've got literally 70 minutes of this race to go, but you can have your driver in there for only 65 minutes, so you're 5 minutes out. What do you do? When do you pit? Keeping in mind you've still got a 5-minute compulsory pit stop that you've got to do. So do you pit now underneath the safety car, complete your 5 minutes, and then maybe just do a little splash and dash, not so much a splash and dash, but just a driver change to then get your driver home?
Oh, this is just heartbreaking for the 20 car. This team has been pretty solid throughout the course of the day, the Hargraves and Gillison team. And that local search entry ends up on the tilt tray, just so they can get it off the crest of the racetrack.
This was the car that we saw a moment ago involved in that incident, the Gulf War Racing.
Did you hear that audio just then? The Padiachi team just coming in. They had the fire extinguisher ready to go just if there was a problem, but...
So, interested to note, I saw there a moment ago in shot, the number 6 Lamborghini is in the lane, so that's the Dietz Wall entry. So it'll be Dietz that will step out of the car, Wall back in. Lap 95 here for these guys. Still a long way in this race to go. Bit of a pat on the back there as well. Look at the damage on the rear end of this car here.
As a result of that incident earlier on, we'll just race tape it. Thank God for race tape. Doesn't matter how expensive your car is, race tape fixes every manufacturer, every model without prejudice.
You're not wrong. Maybe they should use that in some real-life surgery in real life for us humans. You never know.
Well, Adam, some running repairs. What's happened?
I had a contact in the rear on turn 2, and it's the diffuser ended under the car and had 2 wheels off the ground, so I was grounded.
That's not the spirit of the game, but anyway, you've managed to bring her in.
Thank God, yeah, because we were doing all right, so it's good to get back out there again with Dan, so yeah, the race continues.
So plenty going on in this race at the moment. Matt Stupas, Yasser Shahin, the leaders at the moment. The Dietz Wall entry has just pitted from second place, so plenty to play out in the final hour of this 4-hour enduro under the stars at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Welcome back to Sydney Motorsport Park, and watch this. We're about to go racing in the final hour of this 4-hour enduro, and 2 cars immediately go straight into pit lane, Brian.
Yeah, some of our back markers there, so they won't have an impact on our leaders of the race. So lap 99, lap 100, a pivotal point in this race as the Stupas Shahin entry continues to lead the way with this Moore entry sitting in position number 2 at the moment.
There's that throaty rumble of the Mercedes. Beautiful time of the night for motor racing, isn't it too? Just a dream situation. Take away the fact they've been out there for 3 hours. That's not the point. Third gear, smooth on the throttle, over the crest and drop down. Almost get to 4th. Adrian Dietz has been a solid soldier here today so far. Kylie's in the pits to catch up with him now.
Adrian, you've got David Wall looking in a great position at this stage. I know there's still plenty more racing to come, but for yourself, you really got yourself into it in the end.
Yeah, I struggled a little or a lot in the first stint. The car was very taily, wasn't really handling the greasy conditions in my hands very well, but David really got us back in the race with his second stint. He drove an outstanding second stint on really worn tyres and just did a great job. He's out there on new tyres now, and hopefully he can run to the end and defend from Luke and the other quick guys.
Looked like you really fell into yourself once the sun set and the conditions improved, I guess, for you.
The track just gripped up once the sun went down, and it was really good. It was a great experience driving under lights here.
A good catch up there with Adrian Dietz, and interesting that they're going to try and go to the end here on their driving time with David Wall now back in the car. We'll follow that one closely for you as the cars file their way through turns 4 and 5. And here is your race leader at the moment. They're yet to make their final 5-minute compulsory pit stop. That is key, so they're going to have to give up this lead at some point in this race. We ride back on board with, looks like Chris Pither there in the Mark Cars Australia entry.
That KFC Audi has just been a model of consistency, hasn't it, right from the get-go. A couple of minor little incidents, but nothing really to speak of. Headlights ablaze. We just watched the Walden Sheargold entry starting to charge back through as well. It's been lively, the Porsche. Look at this little battle pack. 4th gear, 3rd gear. Just keep that momentum up. What a magnificent time of the day. Oh, running wide. The Mercedes has gone wide now. It's the Mark II up against it in a straight line, and very clean move in the end.
Marudi's still in that car at the moment as well before handing it back over to Luke Gilden for the end of this race. So looking now back at your race lead, then McPherson, Porter entry just in behind here at the moment as well. The iMac Lamborghini almost giving him a push here going down the main straight. Headlights ablaze. It's great action here under the stars, under the lights at Sydney Motorsport Park. Back down into turn number 1 and 2. It's Audi v Lamborghini here at the moment that we're watching. Still plenty to play out though. And here's David Wall now back in this car.
Oh, jeez. He had a big look just then at the Audi. This is a great battle. You're watching highlights of the final hour of this 4-hour.
And this is a battle for the lead at the moment as well. So Wall having a look here, having a lunge. We'll try and get down the inside here at the moment as well. Remember, pit stop still pivotal at the moment as well. Actually, probably correct myself. Because Wall actually did that pit stop a few laps ago, he's probably getting a lap back actually. Because this Stupas car really is still like 5 minutes ahead of that car at the moment.
Really, the Lambo has been under the radar a fair bit. We really haven't seen it contending for outright lead honours like this prior till now. So these guys have really come on. Dietz and Wall. And this is a very clean pass up the inside for the lead.
Yes, that's all about trying to get a lap back on them at the moment.
Oh, my goodness.
Fire down here at the moment in the pits. Big drama there as well.
Wow.
I believe it was probably a fuel spillage, and from what I'm hearing, it went onto the brake caliper. Look at the smoke down there in the pits. It went on the brake caliper and therefore has ignited the fuel.
And the Valmont Racing entry, and those guys, I got to say, it had been on fire most of the day, but not in a literal sense like that. That's devastating this late in the race. And this battle continues to rage right here.
Battle of the Lambos, isn't it? As they work their way out of the hairpin section. Here's a replay. Look at that on the right-hand side of this car, and it goes up big time. Good work there by the team to put that fire out. Interesting story with this Marcel Zalua-Sergio Perez combination. In fact, I'll get back to that because this is a pivotal point in this race. Lap 112, your race leaders, as we called, coming into the pits to complete their final 5-minute compulsory pit stop, giving away what was a huge lead over car number 6 with the Dietz Wall entry. They were a couple laps in front, but this is now going to put them right back behind now and probably coming really out, you would say, in the battle for second or possibly even third.
For our race leaders, Matt Stoopman, the safety car, not the best time for you guys.
It actually cost us 40 seconds. So if we didn't have that safety car, I would have been comfortable to say to you, barring problems, we'd almost come home first. But listen, at the end of the day, we're still leading. We've got Dave Wall out there, we've got Luke Gilden out there, and there's a couple other pros out there. So, hey, it's an hour to go. Let's just see if there's one more safety car can help us because we've got gaps. But listen, if we're on the podium, I'd be reasonably happy. To win, I'd be really happy.
And the racing at night, how'd you find it?
This place is amazing. I don't drive. That's the first time we've driven a dark, and it's so well lit. There's a couple of spots where I sort of misjudged a couple of times, which sort of annoyed me a bit because you're in traffic and then suddenly you lose your eye and your sight and your memory of where you are. That's sort of in the back area. I think I call it 5, 6, and 7 going up the hill. But all in all, yeah, it's good. It's nice. Just bang out sort of, he said go and do 33s. First thing he said do 34s. We'll go and do what you're told. It's good.
Interesting to see how that pans out. Now, interesting to note here, the Zalua entry that we saw have this fire a moment ago in the pits is back out there on the racetrack, which is good to see. Here's the Dietz Wall entry. Now effectively your race leaders, but still a question mark around their driving time. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. As they've got the Martin Moore entry, the Audi in front at the moment, as the 33 driven by Luke Yulden at the moment is working on the back of that Audi.
That's massive that the Zalua team was able to come straight back out, because that thing was seriously in some struggle city situation in the pits earlier, that massive fire, but clearly it didn't have a great effect. Oh, the industry racing entry under a lot of pressure here. There's the pass.
There's the pass, and that is a pass for third position as well. So the 33 car now jumping up into position number 3 here. The next one on his hit list is going to be the 51 Lamborghini. This is the third time we've seen the 77 car that's gone around just in front of our leader there at the moment. Well, not our, what was previous leader, I should say, in this race. As we're right on board now once again with Yulden here. So what I was saying a moment ago, they're now up into position number 3. They've got the iMac Lamborghini, they've McPherson and Porter in front in second, and then the ultimate leaders at the moment of Dietz and Wall in that Lamborghini leading this race. So it's Lamborghini 1 and 2 as it stands at the moment.
Oh, this is inopportune. Wow. That could have been really ugly getting down into turn 1 just then. A slower car. Walden had to peel out on that right-hand side of the Porsche to avoid some contact.
Crazy, wasn't it? Speaking of crazy, Luke Yulden is making his way up through this field at the moment. And look at this. This is in fact with minimal time left in this race. We spoke about the driver time, and this has burnt your race leader. So David Wall is having to step out of that car simply because they were going to go over their driving time in the latter half of this race. Here's a number for you. They were going to go over their driving time by about 23 seconds. And therefore, in the last lap of this race, it's handed the lead back now to the 33 car of Luke Yulden.
Incredible that you can be racing for 4 hours and have drama in the last lap that ultimately decides the race for you. That is incredible to think. Look at the sparks coming off that left front corner as well. But these guys have timed their run beautifully.
Certainly have, and by pitting under safety car, getting that 5-minute compulsory pit stop done, and then pitting a short time after for a simple, shorter stop with a driver change, that is ultimately what's put them in the race lead. And that's actually what has burnt the Stupas entry, because they didn't pit under safety car, therefore didn't clear their 5 minutes and had to do a 5-minute pit stop under green flag conditions, and that's what has proven different, and that has been the changing point in this race in the final hour.
The perfect auto body entry with the perfect race strategy. Pole position, they sort of swam under the radar a little bit early, but just came on beautifully in the end. Strategies were critical. Not for this team. They did a fantastic job.
Certainly have through the final turn. It's been a dramatic 4 hours, but Luke Yulden and Vince Maruti will get the job done in the 4-hour Under the Stars Enduro at Sydney Motorsport Park. They played this race to perfection with a capital P. The team are absolutely thrilled, as of course you would be. What a dramatic race in the end. The final car's about to come across the start-finish line, but at the end of what was a dramatic race, to say the least, the Yulden and Maruti entry get the job done at Sydney Motorsport Park. Dietz and Wall in position number 2, and Stupas and Shaheen in the end, ending out the top 3. And there's the reaction from the team.
Big effort, wasn't it? It was certainly enough drama in that 4-hour period. A twilight concept. I really like the idea of it. Beautiful conditions here throughout the day, and that team really did deserve the end result. Yulden, super consistent. Let's face it, if you're going to put a guy in the car with you, that's the guy you're going to do.
Luke, Vince, what an outcome. Congratulations.
Thanks. I thought we were settling for second there. I don't know what happened with the guys up ahead. I knew there was something funny in the pit stops, but mate, awesome job by this guy. Car was great. I had to rag it to get there, and it was good fun.
Yeah, what about you, Vince?
Look, I think it was great to have Luke with me, and he did an awesome job for the day and the stints. What I lost out, he made up in the background, but yeah, we couldn't work out what happened with the pit stop, but they had to do another stop, so hence we couldn't, so we were happy. We sort of kept it nice and tidy and on the black road, and yeah, it was good.
And you adjust, Vince.
What was it like? How much were you pushing it there in the end?
I was pushing, like I was doing 29s at the start of the stint just to try and make up the ground, and I think I hurt the tyres a bit, but got to try and see what happens. It's getting cooler, obviously, and I don't know, the car sort of was good at the start and sort of evened out through the middle, and it was pretty ordinary at the end.
And the verdict on night racing, boys?
Look, love it. It was good fun. Really a great experience. It's a lovely track to have it and have the lights.
Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful. It's you don't even think it's night. It's lit up extremely well. They've done a great job.
What a mighty effort. Congratulations.
Thanks, Golly.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to race under lights as part of the opening round of the Magnolia Capital Australian Motor Racing Series at Sydney Motorsport Park. Don't forget the next round of the series will be happening at Morgan Park Raceway in Queensland on April 16 to 18. Until then, it's bye for now.